And so we're going to flip over at this point in time, and I would like actually to turn the floor over to Molly Mulroy, who is our board chair and also Chief Administrative Officer and CIO at We Energies Corp. So our WEC. So Molly, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kathy, and thanks so much for having me. And also just love to thank the Bucks just for really the opportunity for our city to come together, to see the Deer District so packed and to see people really seeking that out as a gathering place in the city was so exciting. It's just been so fantastic for us as a community. So thank you for all of your involvement. It truly has been inspirational. So I'm thrilled to be here today to celebrate our 2-year anniversary, and really just you think about the growth and the maturity that really has occurred really over those last 2 years, and it's really exciting. We at WEC Energy Group joined the coalition in January of 2020, and really our focus was the investment in the economic development of the community. Obviously, as a utility, we want to be part of that vibrant community. We want to make sure that we're building and supporting really economic growth in a number of facets through our community. And so we are proud to be an investor in the Milwaukee Tech Hub, a strong supporter of the Bucks and a lot of the activities and efforts and support there. And then over time became board chair in January of 2021. And so you can see that we've grown our board. I serve with 9 very esteemed board colleagues, really to execute that collective vision and mission of the Milwaukee Tech Hub. Go to the next slide. So let's just revisit, we talk about that vision and mission, what those key anticipated results are in addition to it. So it really is inclusively doubling the tech talent in our region and to create lasting regional prosperity and life-changing jobs. So that includes organizational success. We want to be here to make sure that our organizations can be strong with the talent that they have. Obviously, as part of that, the hope with and the intent to have the growth of jobs for folks in this community to shift and be able to move into the technical sector. And most importantly, really building lasting prosperity for our community and really just all of the strength that comes with that. Next slide. So we talk about becoming a championship tech hub, that really doesn't occur with just one organization. It really does take a village. And so we really have an approach and framework to leverage really a collective impact. And so if we think about really the last 2 years, some of that is really getting some strong foundation in place for how and where we look to grow. So during that time, we've refined our mission. We've set forth strategies and refined those as well. We've made investments in those strategies. So really taking some of the vision and thought that we had and really putting that into action. We've created systems of measurement because, of course, success is always important, that we need to know where we started and also where we've gone and where we need to go. So measurement is absolutely critical as we look and understand really the investments and where we've been. And probably most importantly is, again, partnership. To be able to execute all of this, it requires partners really across all facets of our community working together with, again, that common mission and vision. So to that end, we've ratified bylaws, we've hired professional management, we've built a governance structure, we've built investment, and also importantly, we've also had all of those results audited because, as we look to ask folks to become involved in this community, we want to make sure that we have built integrity, that we have built trust, and that folks feel that they are making an investment and that they can be very confident that their money is being well spent and that it's being focused in the right ways and in the right programs to execute those results. And so again, when we look at some of our measurement, we have focused in and standardized that. So we were using a universal benchmark because we want to make sure that we are comparable when we look at other tech communities. So that's founded in our comp TIA, and that includes targets when we look at, again, not only our demand requirements, but also just our regional as well as our incremental targets to make sure that we are really transforming and driving towards that change. We've selected strategies based on research. So we want to make sure that we're building a tech hub that includes and is, again, comparable when we look at those other tech markets. And really, again, with a focus on how do we build really across the demand for jobs as well as providing and building a really diverse supply of talent. And then lastly, really just in conjunction with those members, we want to make sure that we're building to address, really all of the needs. And this is something that's going to continue to evolve, right? We've seen just how much change, things that we absolutely could not have anticipated over the last 2 years, recognizing that we're going to have to continue to pivot and build and respond to the needs of our community and the needs for growth. And then, really, when it comes down to all of this, obviously open and continuous communications are absolutely critical. So through our governance system, through our gatherings, things like today, we're able to share, exchange, and really build towards that greater growth and overall maturity. So really, 2 years, there's been a lot that has happened, but really, this is only the beginning. We've really set our sights on investing in systemic change. We're doing that through our current members, and our goal is really to continue to grow. And we've got a lot of momentum, but we've got more opportunity to come. Next slide. And so when we look at really where have we been and where are we now, we really started with 6 initial members, and we've grown to over 100 organizations today. So when you think about just the amount of collaboration, the representation that comes with, again, a group this large, it really has helped us to align, our overall region, allowed us to build a stronger and overall impact. And so when we think about, where we need to head from here, it's really important that we grow really across all those facets of our community. Next slide. And so when we think about that, it really is, when we look at across, really all of these towers, it's, innovation through our talent and working well and through others. So when we look at really supply as well as demand, it's everything from our K-12 education to our post-secondary education, obviously working with corporations, economic development. We have a very strong partnership with MMAC, and our goal there is to ensure that we are all working collectively and dovetailing all of our efforts to build the strongest approach and execution, and also in some ways really specializing, where do we have our strengths and our differentiation, and making sure that we are actively delivering on those plays. We look at startups. Obviously, this is a huge opportunity for us to grow in different ways than we had before, as we've talked about just really over the last 2 years. There's a lot of opportunity. And so to continue to support these efforts, how we're thinking differently, how we're pivoting and moving in different directions, startups are a big part of that. Nonprofits, of course, when we look at just, again, whether that is on the supply side and some of the education pieces, even on the demand side, a lot of those nonprofits are really helping us to execute in so many ways. We really need to ensure that we're supporting them and that we've got them solid members as part of our overall community. Reskilling, certainly making sure that, where folks, and we know that we've seen change just in terms of industry here in Milwaukee, how do we support those efforts to, again, make that pivot? How do we support the efforts of those corporations to make that change? And again, ensure that we've got the talent that allows them to grow as they look to do digital transformation and really, grow into the overall sort of global competitiveness and their opportunities there. And then lastly, government. When we think about really, again, opportunities for funding, when we talk about our ability to gain reach, government is absolutely critical to all of those efforts. So when the Bucks talked about really the criticality of community support and, how, really the role of basketball, when we think about economic development, it really does take all of us collectively working together to lift each other up. And so when we think about transformation, we think about really all of the things we have involved here with Milwaukee Tech Hub. It truly is going to take a village. It's going to take a community, and really, again, all of our energy working collectively together to move in that direction and to really achieve that overall vision and success. So with that, I am going to turn it back over to Kathy for the next part of the program. So thank you again, everybody, and appreciate your attendance today.
Thank you so much, Molly. What a great introduction to this. And, as we talked about this, we decided to really lean into the theme that we were given here with the Bucks and their participation, because as we think about what it's going to take, as Molly said, we've set forth a set of plays or strategies for us to move forward with. And that includes both how do I build the supply of talent and the demand of jobs concurrently, while doing that in collaboration with the community, with diversity, equity, and inclusion throughout every single strategy that we do. And so what we're going to do today is kind of break this down and this isn't an impact report, et cetera, but rather an opportunity for us to look at kind of the data that's informed at a very high level, and then start to go into what's the strategy that we have for each of these, and then what's some of the preliminary outputs that have come as a result of that. And then we'll do a full impact report again in January, like we did last year as well. So with that, we're going to start on the supply of talent, because we all know that in order to build a championship organization, team, et cetera, it's all about the talent. And to start with the data in mind, I think one of the first things that it's important to know is that we are competing nationally for this talent. Currently, there's about a 1.5% unemployment rate in tech talent across the country. And more, we're looking for emerging tech opportunities in that. And as we look at that, there's really, we're seeing a growth of the demand at the same time that, we actually kind of have a leaky bucket going on with retirements and the Great Resignation, et cetera. So we have to look at kind of a multi-pronged approach to being able to build capacity of tech talent here in the region. But we have to build that capacity while also thinking about diversity. And these are just the demographics relative to how we are relative to the rest of the country. We know that we're a little more diverse from a gender diversity perspective, but we're also a little less diverse on the racial diversity. And therefore, it's going to take all of our collective action here, both, the formal nonprofit organizations and others, all collaborating to drive to both capacity and diversity at the same time. So with that, we would not be able to think about talent without, especially in a basketball analogy, without first thinking about the draft. And how do you recruit those couple of key players into the community? And what's interesting is we actually have a generational opportunity right now to attract talent into the Milwaukee region, because people are on the move now more than they have ever been before. But they're moving for different reasons. They're actually moving not just for a job, but more around quality of life, cost of living, to be close to family. With what that said, being local is still important. That importance of going to a place where they know that they're going to be connected and be able to continue to advance their careers and their professional network is so critical to how we need to compete. So as we look at that, we actually look at this in terms of how do we start thinking about differently how we go and recruit? Because it's no longer about just, here's the job responsibilities, come and look at us. It's actually, we did some primary research last year, and it's actually also about the fact that I really care about what problem I'm solving. I care that you're committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I want to make sure that if I go to a location, there's opportunities in multiple locations or multiple opportunities in that location, and that I'm going to be working on advanced technology. And so as we think about this, we think of it in multiple kind of strategies. First of all, we have to show up where talent is. And so one of those examples is actually a profile that was created on powder keg. So when we originally went out here, lots of cities were listed here, about 15 or 20, as different tech hubs across the country, and Milwaukee was not. So we worked with them to create a profile around what's Milwaukee unique, how is Milwaukee unique as a tech hub. And the second part of that, though, is that we have to build our own story and actively promote that. And so we are actually in the process right now of building a talent attraction site to show the breadth and depth of opportunity that's here in the Milwaukee region. But more than that, this isn't just a job site. This is where all of the resources are. How do I get connected to the community? What's it like to live here? How do I lead here as an individual? How do I grow and develop, whether that's myself or my startup? And how do I get connected into the community? And how do I continue to develop my skills? This is coming soon, but we are very excited to be able to showcase this really quickly. In fact, our members are already in the process of building their profiles of them as an organization, and then also starting to look at posting their roles as well. And then underlying all of that is really the fact that then we will have a base asset on which to build so that we can proactively market our community and go and target regional alumni based on living here, working here, growing up here, et cetera, and be proactively reaching out to them on our collective Milwaukee tech ecosystem, and then be able to find the right role for them here in the ecosystem. But that is not going to be enough. So as I said earlier, right, we have a 1.5% unemployment rate in tech across the United States. We are competing across all tech hubs. And so therefore, it's going to be important that we also develop our talent here. And so we actually focus on two areas, early talent and reskilling, as opportunities to transform our talent here, because that's going to be the tech hubs that are successful going into the future. And we actually have an amazing asset here in the region, and that's our higher educational institutions. We actually have the 6th highest concentration of college students per capita, both including in our 4-year and our 2-year degree programs. But yet, because of that, it's actually our asset, but it's also not fully utilized. And we see individuals leaving the region. And this kind of, whether it's on the data or whether we hear it anecdotally, we hear that the employers have enough opportunity or enough candidates for their entry-level positions. It's really that mid-career that they're struggling with. And so this creates an opportunity for us to rethink that, and how do we reshape roles to be able to take and accommodate more of this great resource that we have here in the region in our higher educational institutions. And so as we think about how do you develop talent, we think of it on terms of an entire journey of that individual, from kindergarten to first job. And you first have to think about, how do you inspire that talent? And so one of the opportunities there for everyone here in the community is to volunteer as part of Hour of Tech. Go into the schools and be able to help them see what a tech career is like, or teach an hour of code. Last year, we had over 10,000 hours that were donated, and we expect to do the same this year as well, in partnership with Connect Business Solutions. The second part of that is really our pre-internship program to help bring individuals from multiple disciplines and be able to get a real world perspective on tech careers. And then to be able to not only help those individuals, but also their education and educators, in order to take that impact from an individual to an entire group of educators who can help guide our students systematically across the region. And then last but not least, if you're not aware of our Tech Career Expo that was held in September, it was a fabulous opportunity. We had over 500 people registered to be able to get connected to local employers, but also to get the systematic help to help them in resume writing and technical interviewing, et cetera. But just like everything that was talked about earlier, this is not done alone. This is done in partnership with a lot of other organizations, and also with initiatives to create systematic scale. You're going to hear later from the Department of Public Instruction and the Higher Educational Regional Alliance, but also the other nonprofits in Greater Milwaukee STEM. it really is the collective working together that are going to allow us to make impact on scale. And I just want to share an example of what this looks like when we collaborate. So this summer's pre-internship program had amazing results, and we were awarded as a result of that several awards, both at a local level and at a national level, because we had individuals from over 40 colleges and universities coming together, and through by being very intentional in the reach out and making sure that it was an inclusive environment, we actually achieved 87% of those individuals that participated were from demographics that are traditionally underrepresented in tech. So women, Black, Hispanic, and disabled populations. We also had a number of employers all working together to make sure that we were educating them on the things that mattered. So we had local leaders helping in providing workshops and presentations, helping define the requirements, but also then mentoring the students. Our higher educational regional institutions were also involved, and they actually created the very first learning badge for this program, specifically focused on the AI and data. And then the students themselves felt like this was worthwhile, that they were increasing their data and technical skills, and that they would recommend this to others as well. So it's a great example that when we all come together, and by the way, we did this in conjunction with a UWM professor, Matt Friedel, as well as the Commons. And it's really when we're all collectively coming together, we can have amazing impact on our community. I'm going to flip over to reskilling. And it's a similar kind of message in that, number one, we have the talent. This is a study that was done last year that really shows we have the opportunity to upskill talent in various kinds of careers into our most highly in-demand skill sets: software engineering, software development, cloud, cyber, etc. And in doing so, we can actually create pathways of upward mobility as well, and create amazing life-changing opportunities for individuals. The other part that's very similar, as you heard, it's about the collective. So we have employers working together to learn from one another. We have reskilling providers working together such that, if one individual isn't right for a particular program, they don't feel as if they've failed, but rather are referenced into another program that will help them move into a tech career. And then also creating communities of learners. We have amazing partners from IC Stars to Dev10 to New Horizons and Mars Solutions Group and so many others working together in this. But we also have kind of leaned into a public option for that, which is tech apprenticeships. So last year, we actually, Laura Schmidt, who's our Chief Talent Development Officer, leaned in and worked with the Department of Workforce Development to look at how do we take and scale tech apprenticeships, knowing that they are very different than a manufacturing or a plumbing apprenticeship, etc. There's similarities, of course, in that people are paid while they're learning, so it makes this a very accessible opportunity and gives us a very diverse set of candidates because it's now accessible to all. But it also is different in that most of us probably don't want software developed by somebody until they've had some skills and training under their belt. And so we've been able to really work with the Department of Workforce Development, and we were granted a grant of over $385,000, which is pure incentive grants for our employers to take on apprenticeships in order to reduce the cost and risk associated with it. We're now on our second apprenticeship cohort with now over 5 organizations participating. There was just a press release around that. And what we're seeing is amazing skill sets, people mid-career bringing in both their past experience associated with working in insurance or manufacturing or distribution, et cetera, and being able to then be reskilled into tech professions as well, starting with software development with the opportunity to expand it from there. So we're really excited about the partnership with Apprenti here, who has done this across the different places across the country, because it allows us to take best practices and scale it here in Wisconsin as well. So I'm going to flip over to the other side of this and really talk about demand. So we're going to start here with, first of all, again, some data. And one of the things, as I was looking, Molly mentioned earlier that we leverage a standard, CompTIA CyberStates, because it allows us to look, longitudinally against how we're doing across time, but it also allows us to look comparatively around how do we fit relative to other tech hubs across the country. Because when we all think about what is a tech hub, we all think about that upper left-hand corner. And that's really cities that have a strength in the tech industry, and as a result, also have it as a larger percentage of their overall economy. But as I look at that, this line in the middle of is actually represents it being 10% of the economy. And Milwaukee is right there, almost equal to where New York is as a percentage of the economy. However, what we are missing is a really, really strong tech industry. And so as you see these strengths, what we see instead is that most of our tech jobs are really embedded in our traditional industries, which have now grown to be essentially tech companies, as many of our organizations have evolved into being tech enabled and tech first from a strategy perspective. But to really go into that, tech hub perspective, it means growing the tech industry as well here in the region. And so what we're going to talk about next is how do you do that? How do you grow the demand for jobs concurrently while you're growing supply of talent? So we're going to start first by the jobs, because all of us want to be part of a winner. And, it's really interesting. Anytime, if measured by, LinkedIn and the responses I get on LinkedIn, anytime we're celebrating, the movement of a new company here from a tech jobs perspective, or frankly, even the amazing growth we've seen. Because in first quarter, Milwaukee was listed as the fastest growing tech hub across the country, based on our growth of demand for jobs here, or job postings for jobs here in the region. And we've continued to outpace the rest of the country throughout the 2021. And so as we look at this, we're really excited when organizations choose to invest here in Milwaukee. And these are just some of the announcements that have been made throughout the year to grow the 2360 tech businesses that already exist here, and looking to grow them both in the number and the scale of them as well. But we can't only recruit, similar to kind of bringing on your, recruiting through the draft. And that can't be the only strategy. We also have the opportunity to grow our startup ecosystem as well. And, when we started on this journey, one of the data points is we have less venture capital invested here in Milwaukee per capita as what there are in other geographies. And that is very true. And so we looked at how do you change that? And you can change it by trying to get the money here, or you can change it by growing the amount of opportunities to be invested in. So growing the number of investable ideas. And we believe you need to grow the investable ideas here. And we're starting to see success in that. So Milwaukee right now is ranked number 13 on this Midwest startups for startups here in the region. And as we look at that, the place that they have said, we actually are starting to see progress is really that growing of the pipeline of opportunities. And so we're really excited to say that's really the strategy we're on. We also, of course, want to grow the wonderful businesses that are already here. I started the morning at Front Desk, who was featured on CBS this morning, 58. But then, Fiveable and many others that are here growing as tech companies here in the Milwaukee region. So as we look at that, as I said, our strategy is to grow that funnel. And the way to do that is really to make it as easy as possible to say, I have a problem I want to solve. And I think that can be done through technology. And help through the process of the thought process that goes into that of how do I find and determine product market fit? How would I develop a company? How would I pitch it to others, et cetera? So that we build this large pipeline of opportunity that can then flow into the other incubators, et cetera, that are existing here in the Milwaukee region. And I'll go through some of the initial stats on that. And the other way of doing it is to kind of flip the script on that and to say, we have a problem we want to solve. We have a known problem from a corporate perspective of a problem we want to solve. And we think, and we know it can be solved through technology. We need somebody to help us in this because we know it's bigger than ourselves. We know this opportunity or this challenge exists in multiple places in our industry. And so that's what reverse pitch is a known validated problem statement to give to the startup community as a way of fast pathing those businesses into product market fit and accelerating them into a formalized business or a pivot of an existing business. And with that, and then we've put in there also the grant through the partnership with WEDC, being able to invest. This year we invested in 12 startups through our startup grants. And I want to thank our committee who helped us in that, because the coalition didn't make those decisions. We actually instead partnered with individuals that were familiar with investments in order to both facilitate their connections into the angel and VC community, but also to provide relevant feedback on what makes them investable as they go through this process. So we're really excited about being able to both to continue to build on that as we go forward into the future. So these are some of the initial stats of this. 4M is now on its 4th cohort with over 200 founders having gone through it. And again, really hitting a new demographic of organizations or individuals working to build these businesses. Many of them still are employed, but they have a problem they want to solve, and they're starting to build those. And we've had over 69 new firms created as a result of that. But we couldn't do it without the community, the mentor population. We've had over 125 people mentor these organizations with us. And we really are thankful for the community engagement here in being able to do so. And on the flip side, Wednesday is Reverse Pitch Milwaukee this year. There's now 4 organizations that are participating in that: Northwestern Mutual and Freighter, who did so last year as well. But also adding this year, West Bend Mutual and Rockwell Automation, all innovative companies that have come forward with 7 known challenges to be able to help provide both the mentorship as well as the initial funding to be able to build a successful business. So with that said, the last one here is about the image. And it's interesting when Robert was talking about the image and you had to provide reasons to believe. We've actually had that same exact conversation here with the coalition, because we recognize that getting recognized on a national stage actually takes time, or creates, it takes time. And we first had to have everyone here believing that we are indeed a tech hub. We have over 80,000 tech employees, 2,300 tech businesses. You saw earlier, it's almost 10% of our economy. We have a very strong tech ecosystem here. But telling that story, we first had to believe that so that we could take that story regional. And you've seen some articles now written about us, purpose.jobs, we were featured as part of Great Lakes, et cetera, to tell the story of Milwaukee as a tech hub so that we can hit the national stage, making it easier to recruit both the businesses and the individuals here to the region. And you've seen that evolution in our branding as well. So as we took over or were formalized as a nonprofit 2 years ago, we were really, our website, et cetera, kind of told the why. And we really are thankful for NM and Advocate Aurora, who were the initial two that started putting this together to really tell the why and to start showing the progress that was being made. But now we've continued to evolve that brand, similar to the way that you have seen, that you saw the branding for the Bucks evolve as well, with new visual elements, with new messaging, et cetera, to really tell the story of what's here in Milwaukee. And then extending that into the programs as well, from the Talent Accelerator that I talked about earlier, which pre-internship is a component of, to the ChooseMilwaukeeTech.org, which is coming soon, to Milwaukee Tech Week, which we're kicking off today. So all of those put together start to really build, kind of just like the Buck evolved as well, to really showcase our strength here in the region. But we have to do that in a lens, as I said earlier, of both capacity and diversity. It doesn't help us if we have 4 or 5 point guards on the field all at the same time. Our innovation comes as a result of a diverse tech workforce. And so as a result, the coalition has a very specific programmatic goal that at least 50% of everyone we serve is from demographics that are traditionally underrepresented in tech. But just like everything else that we've talked about today, that is not done alone. That is done in collaboration with others, and also with just organizations doing great work here in the community to advance all individuals into tech, whether that is neurodiverse, whether that is the Black community, whether that is our Hispanic population or women in the technical field. So we're very excited that we've worked with so many of these organizations to be able to continue to build Milwaukee's diversity in our tech population at the same time that we build capacity. And finally, it has to be about our community as well, because it is not just a tech hub or an individual organization that benefits when we're successful here. Just like you could see article after article of the economic impact that the Bucks had on the Milwaukee region, the same is true of tech growing here in the community. There's an amazing economic impact to be had as well. And so we truly believe we are better together. And these are all individuals that have contributed as part of the coalition over the last couple of years on our committee structures, et cetera. Because at the end of the day, the coalition doesn't hire anybody. Our employers do. And therefore, we have to make sure that as we build this, that we're building it for the needs of our employers here in the region and in collaboration with the community. So we're really thankful for all that have participated with us over the last couple of years. But it's really about everyone getting engaged. And these are all opportunities for individuals or all of us to get engaged. One, we recommend that you get informed or stay informed. We put out a monthly newsletter. That's an opportunity also for the community to highlight what's going on. Our goal is to showcase the breadth and depth of everything going on here in the region. And so we put that out on a monthly basis, and we thank you for all the contributors that bring that out. But it's a great way to understand actually the rest of these. How do you connect? How do you volunteer? How do you really stay engaged and promote the region? The second is to connect, and this week is a prime example of that. There's over 50 events going on by 45 different community partners. A great way to get engaged in the community. But there's also opportunities to volunteer, whether as mentors or to go into the school district to really inspire our next generation. But we also can be a fan. As we've continued to grow, or as the internet has and social media has exploded, there's this huge opportunity for individual trusted voices to have an impact and to really tell the story about the Milwaukee community. So we're thankful for all of you when you share and comment, etc., because it raises the visibility of us, not only here in the Milwaukee region, but across the entire ecosystem. And you'll see us highlighting all kinds of organizations via both personal and our coalition channels to be able to celebrate what's going on here in the Milwaukee community collectively. But we couldn't do this without a team that I swear is inspired by passion every day. They inspire me every day to show up, and I'm so thankful for the community, both our full-time staff as well as our intern population, as well as our partnerships to execute programs. We're so excited and thankful for the community support here and continue to look to have that grow. So with that, I think we are on time, and I am going to ask that we bring up and put on camera and unmute all of our panel who have been part of this tech ecosystem and who can really talk about it. But I'm going to turn it over to Jason Fields. And some of you may wonder, so Jason leads MadRep, but he is also from the Milwaukee community, and it is a wonderful thing for us to partner across the state. And so I'm so thankful to have Jason in his role on the board. And I'm going to turn it over to you to really take it away from here.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you all for joining us. Happy to be here. And if I'm correct, we have 25 minutes for this wonderful panel. And I want to get into it. And so what I'm going to ask for all the panelists, because I don't want to take up a lot of time trying to introduce you and all the great things that you've done, but if you could introduce yourself, your role, and how you've been engaged in the MKE tech ecosystem. And let's open up with that. Ecosystem. And I'm going to start with Jim, if that's okay.
Happy to, Jason. Thanks. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak to the group today. So my name is Jim Page. I'm the executive director of the Milwaukee 7. We are the regional economic development entity here in southeastern Wisconsin. So I've been with the organization since it started in 2005, and most of that time has been spent on the corporate attraction and expansion front. So it's real-time opportunities, working with companies that are thinking about where they're going to place jobs and investment. And really, I've seen this over time, how this has evolved. Back in 2005, we would have a lot of conversations with companies about any number of different location factors. And I would say labor was one of the things that was on that list. But fast forward to 2021, that topic is on the list each and every time. And the other thing that we've seen is the tone of that discussion and really the type of employees that they're looking for has really changed. So we used to have a ton of discussions around, can you help me find machinists? Can you help me find welders? We still get some of that, but mostly the discussion these days is about, can you help me find people who can build embedded systems, or can you help me find electrical engineers? And so for us, really the ability to do corporate attraction and expansion, it almost hinges entirely on the talent that we have here and our ability to build confidence in companies that we can deliver it.
Yes.
Wonderful. I'm Jennifer Carlson. I'm the executive director and co-founder of Apprenti, and we operate as an intermediary, partnering with the Tech Hub to bring apprenticeship and all of kind of the mechanisms and pieces and parts of it to the table on behalf of employers, the state, the training agents, the Department of Labor, and the workforce boards, and pull in all of those resources in order to make the ecosystem work for everybody. And we have been partnering with the Tech Hub now for about 1.5 years and bringing this to fruition. And we are in our second cohort right now, just kicking it off. So thank you.
Back to you, Jason.
All right, who do we have next? Why don't we go with Harry?
All right. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, so my name is Harsimran. I go by Harry, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Auto Sciences. My co-founder and I have primarily been engaged by participating through a lot of the startup accelerators and incubators that are in the ecosystem. So we've gone through the 4M program, Generators, G Beta, the Milky Way Tech Hub accelerator, and various programs like those. So that's primarily how we've been engaged.
And Phyllis.
Hello, so Phyllis King, Vice Provost at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. A lot of my responsibilities lie in academic partnerships, and I think I have also been involved with the Milwaukee Tech Hub, I think from the beginning, in, out, around, and still, and growing. But the other position I have is operational lead for Higher Education Regional Alliance. And this is an organization that founded a couple years ago, really, that aggregates the 18 institutions of higher education along with 9 economic development and community-based organizations, with the idea of building a more educated, innovative, nimble talent system to meet really the 21st century needs of our workforce needs in this region. And so that really translates into 96% of our post-secondary education, our student enrollment here in Southeast Wisconsin. So we're talking about 157,000 students. So a big, significant workforce of the future. And also we're very much aligned with the Tech Hub when we're talking about growing talent to serve the regional needs.
All right, and Janice.
Good afternoon, everyone. Janice Murtis. I'm the Assistant Director of Teaching and Learning, Everything Digital Learning at the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. We've been engaged with various regions of the state, but are very impressed, obviously, by the expansion of this work within your region. I am coordinating the efforts to release our first Wisconsin State Computer Science Plan from our state superintendent's office, hopefully Computer Science Week in this December. And this is going to give us a framework to talk about computer science in an equitable component across the state. Also, as we have had students experience virtual learning, we've had a huge increase in digital literacy skills of students. So looking at this as a K-12 spectrum, and connecting in with all of our pathways from middle school into high school and some of the course options that students may have to accelerate out of high school. But we're trying to connect our dots to provide a framework and some funding for some K-12 program training around curriculum planning integration moving forward. So thank you for everything you do, and we're excited to become partners in this work across the state.
Well, thank you, everybody. And so we're going to get into some questions here. And if you can, I want you all to answer this. And Harry, if you don't mind, we'll start with you. Where have you seen the greatest impact from collaborations within the MKE Tech ecosystem? I'll repeat that again. Where have you seen the greatest impact from collaborations engaged in the MKE Tech ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd probably say there's some really solid collaborations that happen between the accelerator programs and then within each one. So I think every single program has some version of bringing in mentors from the community. And these are top tier mentors who are volunteering their time to connect with founders, understand what they're working on, and helping them with things. And I would say that's probably where a decent amount of impact comes from, because then they're able to open doors, make connections, and give you advice on things ranging from, finance and HR, accounting, all the way to startup fundraising and, how do you close a round? So I'd say the mentorship that comes through a lot of these programs is where we're collaborating really well.
Phyllis, why don't we go to you?
Yeah, I think the Milwaukee Tech Hub has really raised awareness of the need for tech talent in our community. They've certainly improved the branding of Milwaukee since they've grown. And I think they've offered a lot more programs, a lot more educational opportunities, and certainly grown a lot more partnerships, as we've just heard Kathy say. And I think also inspired innovation, and this region is really getting excited about innovation. And, along that same line, when, as I talk about Higher Education Regional Alliance, one of the things we did for innovation with this past summer was a badge opportunity that Kathy just mentioned. And it really speaks to their ability to kind of evolve and align with education and at the same time, innovate. So we have at the Higher Education Regional Alliance a goal of evolving, aligning, and innovating. And so right along with the Milwaukee Tech Hub. And so we also feel that urgent need for technology, right? So that perfect opportunity came this summer when they were designing an opportunity with this pre-internship program. And we said, well, wait a minute. So you're talking about education, you're talking about linking with employers, and you talk about innovating in terms of programming. And so that all fits well with the Higher Ed Regional Alliance as well. So we co-branded that badge and created a really innovative program with them. And one of our own faculty, Matt Feidel, again, led the curriculum development of it, but it was, MSOE, it was Carroll, it was other universities, Marquette, that also joined in and said, let's all do this together. So the inspiration around the collective nature of this is really, I think, what's inspiring. And what it really did this summer for that group of folks and a diverse group of talent pool there as well, was to give them this short-term sort of credential and incremental learning around something that is the future on foundations of data and AI. So it is our future. It's everything in terms of jobs. We all have data in our jobs. So to give them that badge, which really tells them that they've acquired a skill, or tells employers they've acquired a skill and what they've learned, and then be able to actually apply it with mentorship from employers or with employers, was so powerful. And then on top of that, for the Higher Education Regional Alliance to embrace that and say, and validate that and say that this is of value to employers and to the learners themselves, was really, really a powerful statement. So first of its kind, I think there's more to come. But truly, I think that the Milwaukee Tech Hub is doing some really impactful, strategies here.
And Jennifer, same question.
Yeah, I think I'll just build on exactly what Phyllis was saying. The Tech Hub has done a great job of building great relationships around the region and elevating the conversation, not just to the region, but on a national footprint around the need for companies. And I think their ability to bring the companies to the table and have that conversation be a real-time conversation, and getting the companies to make a commitment to trying some new opportunities, be that engaging more with the higher ed system, working with registered apprenticeship and the state, and really just understanding, like, how do we build another pipeline of talent, because the core pipeline we have is tapped out. And the Tech Hub has really elevated that conversation, along with, if we're going to do it, then like, let's also take this opportunity to build out in a completely different pipeline of people who have skill sets, but maybe come from non-traditional backgrounds, and improve our diversity in the ecosystem at the same time. And they've done a wonderful job of kind of convening all of the resources to have that conversation.
Jim, and then Janice.
Sure. So I think I really like, Phyllis, how you mentioned alignment, because I think that this is largely what it's about. So if you look at this region and you start thinking about measures of prosperity, one that's as good as any is per capita income. And you go back all the way to the late 1960s and go fast forward all the way to 2020. If you look at the top 50 largest metropolitan areas in the United States, Milwaukee has ranked between 14th and 20th all the way through. So there has been a significant amount of prosperity that's not only was here a while ago, but continues to be here pretty much in the same measure today. But I think if you look at what drove that prosperity, specifically the type of jobs that would lead to someone being able to lead a good life, I believe, and I think Jennifer's hitting it spot on, we're reaching the end of what that model looks like. The new model is going to look a whole lot different in terms of the talent needs that companies have, and our ability to remain prosperous as a region is really going to be wholly dependent on our ability to deliver that type of talent. And that really requires alignment. And I've been really gratified to see what Kathy, the Tech Hub, and a lot of the folks here on the screen have been able to do to sort of get a broad-based understanding that, yeah, that is the way forward. It's not an easy road, I think, to get there. I suspect there'll be a number of stops and starts. But the one thing I'll say too is we don't have to solve all these things. We really just have to run a little bit faster than our competitors. And so the ability to do that, I think that alignment really helps us and gives us a head start.
Sure, and I don't want to take a lot of time because I think the rest of the panelists, I mean, you live and breathe in that Milwaukee region, but from afar, knowing our collaborative partners and what they're helping to promote as potentially that new pathway and exposure of students. I mean, some of the work that has been done around virtual field trips during COVID or internships, externships for teachers, you know, this is all building an understanding of the need, but then also the ability to build a framework of instruction and curriculum that needs to meet these demands. So as schools are developing classes or connecting with higher ed partners on topics around things like AI, biotechnology, computer science, the words are going to change with the needs, but the idea is that we build bridges and open those doors for students across the area.
Hey, we have 10 minutes left, and I'm going to throw a sort of audible in here. And I do want all of you to answer this question, or these two questions. It's, what do you hope to see in the next 3? Then how do you think we can get there? And I'll answer that because I want to chime in on this. For me personally, I think as a man of color, when I look at Madison and Milwaukee, I would love to see more people of color entering those AI fields, STEM technologies. I would see more of the tech fields being taught in schools. And then I think, how do we get there? Again, collaborations and partnering with organizations such as mine, MKE Tech. So for all of you, and Janice, I'm going to start with you because you're at DPI. What would you like to see in the next 3 to 5 years, and how do you think we get there?
Sure, I would like us to make sure, so we got ahead of a state mandate. Some states have legislative action says you have to teach this. You know, we're a local control state, so we want to respect that. But coordinating the information of the why and the story, and Jason, to what you pointed out, yes, we need to diversify that pipeline of opportunity. And I'm not afraid to say it's going to come through traditional education and non-traditional education. We have a lot of great community partners, after-school partners that have really taken this on with a lot of hope for students and created not only the content access, but the mentoring access. And I do think that's a really important part of this going forward is the mentoring and awareness aspect. And to the point of the financial opportunities. We also need to dispel the myth that it's not necessarily a 4-year degree. what some of the businesses are investing regarding internships and placement of high school students while they're in high school. Or again, looking at educational opportunities that are supplemented to grow your own. It's really an interesting opportunity to reskill the workforce we have, but to think about the new workforce and the incentives. But I do believe strongly, as you pointed out, the diversification and opportunities, we really have to focus on that from a framework of inclusion within our curriculum offerings across curricular areas, so that exposure is not come through one or two courses. It's built in as a system of thinking. We're doing a lot around computational thinking. And again, we may say AI now, in 5 years, we may have a different word that describes a need or a skill. So being agile enough to adjust, but computational thinking is going to be a framework. So thank you.
Harry?
Yeah, I think, this goes on to a point that Kathy mentioned earlier. I think it'd be very cool to see greater variety in the pre-seed and seed stage check sizes that are written in the venture capital space. Right now, if you're a founder in Milwaukee or Wisconsin as a whole, then if you wanted to raise anywhere from $50,000 to $500,000 at a pre-seed or seed stage, you could do that, but it gets significantly harder the further up you go. Once you get to 1.5, it's very difficult. And that starts to limit what kinds of investments and like what kinds of companies can be, spearheaded and things like that. And it's going to be especially important in the next 3 to 5 years now that everything has become virtual. So for founders, deals are getting done like entirely virtually, where we're able to connect with VCs halfway across the country, run due diligence, things like that. And the unique thing about the Midwest is that we can take money from the coast and actually make it go further because the OpEx is lower here. So in the next 3 to 5 years, I think it's going to be really important that venture capital kind of starts to adapt and change some of its dynamics, especially since more of the country is kind of looking in at us and things are more accessible with the virtual world.
Jennifer, you're up.
Yes, and I think all of the above in the comments here that are being made, I agree 100% with. And if I lean back in on Jim's comments earlier, I agree that it doesn't have to be everything and it doesn't have to be right now, but there are a couple of critical pieces that need to move forward sooner rather than later when we talk about equity, inclusion, and opportunity that can be created here. And I think the first is that companies need to lean into reclassifying how they identify talent, and that talent is not defined by pedigree alone, and that a college degree, as we've discovered with many companies that we work with, has become the default, but isn't necessarily the indicator. And so reclassifying jobs with the appropriate kind of training or skill sets that would be able to fulfill those roles is the first step. The second is to say that companies philosophically or culturally need to kind of be thinking about, in order for us on a not just at a regional level, because this is not an isolated problem for just Milwaukee or Wisconsin. This is a national crisis, frankly, around how do we create more talent. And even if we maxed out the higher ed system, we would still be a 10x off from demand domestically. And so we have an opportunity, and we've proven through multiple programs that apprenticeship, along with other programs, can retrain people or take them out of other skill sets and backgrounds and train them into technology roles. And that means companies have to play an active role in creating talent and not just consuming talent. Some of that burden, not just financially, but the investment of time by mentors to help skill people into the role, and investing in that through apprenticeship, where there's a cost incentive for companies to participate, means that there's an opportunity for us to create a better level playing field by drawing people in that maybe didn't have the traditional background for getting into this, but certainly have the competency and the skill to do the work.
All right, Jim, and then Phyllis, you'll bring us home. So what do you want to see in the next 3 to 5 years, and how do we get there? And yes, I'm asking you all to solve all the world's problems in 5 minutes.
That's when the best solutions come, right, Jason? Under time pressure. So just a quick comment here. So my organization, we're partnered up. So the Milwaukee 7 is partnered pretty closely with the MMAC, the Metro Milwaukee Association of Commerce. And so there's no lack of people that can give you all the talking points on the importance of creating diverse and inclusive workplaces. But the harder question is, what do you do about it? So there's a number of different tracks that we can go down. The track that I'm in is the employer track. So what is it that employers can do to help this discussion along? And our folks got, quite frankly, frustrated watching others talk about this, and meetings leading to more meetings and discussion leading to more discussion. And so we decided to take some action. So 150 employers in southeastern Wisconsin have signed on to something called the Region of Choice Pledge. A number of members of the coalition are signatories to that. And it's real simple. Those companies by 2025 have pledged that they will increase their hiring of Black and brown talent by 20%, and their hiring of Black and brown managerial talent by 25%. So I think life looks a whole lot different when someone has money in their pocket. And our hope is that we have the ability to start to push prosperity into places in our region where maybe it hasn't quite made its way to in ways that it has in other locations in the region. So this is our way of getting that conversation started, but I think it really requires people and organizations and entities to have that same similar action biased mindset in their own spheres of influence. We're not claiming that that's going to solve everything, but we're hopeful that it gets us along that path.
And Phyllis, you get the final word.
Thank you. Well, I like Jennifer's approach. Yes, and because I do believe what Jim said is great. And just adding to that, I think that if I were to look 3 to 5 years from now, I'd hope that the Milwaukee Tech Hub has really realized their vision. And that's really to meet the supply and the demand with the diverse representation that's of our community. So, if we put that all together, what does that take? It takes growth in partnerships. It takes growth in and a growth mindset, but also an innovation in terms of a mindset with our community. And I think we're getting there. We're on our way, but we could do a lot more. I think we have to work very synergistically. Education, employers, the community have to come together and work this out in a real synergistic way to develop the talent. And it starts with we can talk about pipelines and K to lifelong learning now. It's not just K to any to X, but we will have to have that lifelong learning approach, the curiosity, the creativity, the critical thinking, and then keeping up with all the times. And that means a lot of more agility and a lot more innovation to change and adaptations to changes. And all of that is something that I think we need to do much more closely together and in really working to build this tech ecosystem. And some of the things that I think the community can do, we can all volunteer. We talked about volunteering, job shadowing, inspiring, role modeling, mentoring. Mentoring is so powerful. When we talk about education particularly, it no longer necessarily is in a book and a seat, right? It's in the workplace, it's in real life. That's what's most meaningful. The application of principles and concepts that are taught, but being able to actually see it is just is so much more impactful. And so the more we can work with employers to embed some of this experiential learning, we call it, the better we'll be. The more we can innovate around giving opportunities, giving access, to all populations, but also giving them exposure to real world experiences and meaningful experiences in a real collaborative, cooperative way is what's really going to help move us forward. I do think that the Milwaukee Tech Hub does that with us in a very strong and meaningful way. And I love the way that they have coalesced around not only all of the assets that we have in the community, but really promoted, really convened and really facilitated a lot of groups in our community to come together around this. So, what I see in the future really is a lot of promise. If we can do that, and I know that we've already done that, and we're launched into greater opportunities and scaling that to make that happen. So it takes all of us.
Hey, listen, I want to thank you all for giving us some of your valuable time. Lord knows I could probably talk to you all for another 45 minutes or hour and really get into some nitty gritty stuff. But on behalf of the MKE Tech Hub, thank you for your work, your support. We look forward to continuing to work with you. Kathy and Aaron, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much for both the entire panel. What a great panel, all of your terrific perspectives, but Jason, specifically to you as well for helping facilitate that conversation as well. So we're very fortunate to have all of you as partners in working together across the region. So I'm going to bring it home with just one slide that we're very, now it's time to kind of close her up. So I think as I listened to this, and I happened to be able to work on this in advance, so I had the answer before we got here, but it isn't overnight, right? Transforming a region takes time, it takes purposeful investment. We're thankful for all of the organizations in the region that are contributing to playing the long game to transform and grow the tech ecosystem here in the region. You know, the Bucks started their story 6 years ago. I think we can say the same here as well, that it's going to take that long. And most regions that transform over a decade. So playing the long game is really important. But it takes all of us. And this is one of the fun things about this, is it takes both supply and demand working together to be able to really drive the region forward. And we're so thankful to be working together with all of you. And then I think it was said well in the last panel, when the community wins, or when tech wins, the whole community wins. Everyone is successful together. And then finally, we are going to continue this celebration. And I know it's hard to ask questions on these virtual events, et cetera, but most of the panelists and speakers, et cetera, will be at, for our members, at the happy hour this evening. So we encourage you to join us there. For all that didn't know, it got moved from 3rd Street Market to Central Standard Distillery due to issues with contracting permits as they tried to open. But we look forward to having everybody, all the members there, and then we open it up to the entire community this evening at 6 p.m. for Meet the Meetups as one of the first big events of Tech Week. But it is not the only event of Tech Week, and I think you saw some of these. I referenced reverse pitch throughout it, the healthcare innovation, crypto and coffee, to the VC and startup showcase, to a panel discussion specifically with 6 legislators or state representatives here talking about tech in the community and how policy affects all of that. So we are really excited. There's over 50 events being put on by 45 different partners. And so we're very excited for you to go check that out at, you can either go through our programs or you can search Milwaukee Tech Hub or Milwaukee Tech Week. And we look really forward to having all of you there throughout the week to celebrate. These are both virtual and in person, some hybrid. So depending on your comfort level, but we only ask that everybody come either vaccinated or with a recent negative test so that we can all be safe. So with that said, I will close this up. Again, want to thank everyone who contributed to today, including the team, my team, who put in a lot of energy here to get us here, but also the board of directors, who's been an amazing community to work with as well. So with that, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you at 4 o'clock for those that are joining us for the member happy hour. Take care. Bye-bye.